From the Barbados Today newsroom, this is your evening news update for Tuesday, July 20. A homeless man was found dead in Independence Square, St. Michael, earlier today. Lawmen said the body of a 77-year-old male was found in a phone booth in the area of the taxi stand in Independence Square. Police Public Relations Officer Acting Inspector Rodney Innes said no foul play was suspected. Community worker Sharon Bellamy Thompson, whose charity Fishers of Men feeds homeless people, said she's been serving the deceased for several years.
This is one of my veterans who I actually feed for the last 15 years. He used to be downtown at the Jubilee bench, but since he told me he was not unable to walk every morning for the last 6 years, I have been coming to this destination to feed him with his meat up to yesterday. I did came here, even in the hurricane, I came and he was in that said phone booth where he died in. And I'm so shocked because he's very respectable to me. And if I don't see him, I will leave his food here with the taxi man. Okay. So this is something, so it's a shock to me, something that I do every day for these people. And he's one of my favorite guys. I was dealing with him for the last 15 years.
Officers in the Barbados Defence Force who still have much to offer can now serve their country for a little while longer, even after reaching the compulsory age of retirement. This is one of the several proposed changes to the Defence Amendment Bill 2021, which also seeks to permit the Defence Board to appoint a retired high-ranking officer to the BDF as its next Chief of Staff if necessary. Attorney General Dale Marshall led off debate on the bill in the House of Assembly today.
The enlisted men and women, every single one of them must retire at the age of 45. Now, in many respects, that has been a good thing because at the age of 45, I believe they get a cash gratuity. By then, they would have, I expect, amassed a tremendous wealth of skills, and those skills then go on to serve Barbados well in other areas, and that is a laudable thing. But the truth is, this age of compulsory requirement, capped at 55, and I will say, Mr. Speaker, that there's a possibility for the Chief of Staff, and I think probably one or two of the other ranks, can get an extension. So you can be extended, I think, by up to another 2 or 3 years. But that apart, individuals who still have a lot to offer find that they reach a particular point and then they must go.
The Barbados-based Caribbean Development Bank signed a Euro $30 million agreement with the European Investment Bank that will help borrowing member countries to procure vaccines and other health-related supplies as they seek to curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking at today's virtual MOU signing, CDB President Dr. Heinrich Jean Leon said the funds will allow member states to address critical challenges in their healthcare systems.
More affordable access to safe vaccines and related material, equipment, and services for their populations. Today's signing marks another significant milestone, and it starts another phase of the comprehensive COVID-19 response program initiated by CDB since the onset of the pandemic. That program has included debt service support, policy-based lending, the purchase of personal protective equipment for frontline workers, procurement of digital devices and other technology that support services to underpin online learning and to assist with learning recovery.
The CDB president also warned that unless the pandemic is brought under control, it could undermine hard-won development gains and stymie efforts to achieve the national sustainable development goals. He said vaccinations to achieve herd immunity are critical if the risk of infection is to be reduced and economies are to reopen safely.
However, the reality is that only 0.3% of the more than 4 billion doses of vaccines already administered have been given in low-income countries. At the current pace, and based on issues with procurement and access, most low-income countries are unlikely to achieve mass COVID immunization, approximately 70% of the population, by 2024.
The initiative is part of a Euro $120 million climate facility the EIB is providing for the region to improve climate resilience. Vice President Marino Felix Ricardo says it's necessary for all stakeholders to find intelligent ways to maximize efficiency and effectiveness of the available public resources by attracting private investors.
And this is incredibly relevant to the Caribbean region, which is at the forefront of the climate change and is already experiencing devastating impacts of increased hurricane intensity. And we need to act now. We need to act, in fact, decisively. It's an imperative. And the EIB is committed to increase its level of support to climate action and environmental sustainability to exceed 50% of our lending by 2025 and going beyond. And thus to help to leverage 1 trillion euros of investment over the critical decade we have ahead.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now. Amid mounting speculation of a snap election in the Bahamas, there were long lines outside the Parliamentary Registration Department and post offices today as people rushed to get registered. Jasmine Brown from Our News Bahamas has the story.
A crowded scene outside the Parliamentary Registration Department's Farrington Road offices as scores of residents lined up outside to register. Some had been waiting as early as 7 a.m. Many of the people we met outside the department were seeking to change their addresses, including former Senator Rodney Moncur and his family.
Due to the fact that my house was destroyed by fire, I've not been living in Black Village. Me, my wife, and at least one of my adult sons. We have been living in our office. So the issue arises as to where should I vote lawfully.
In the middle of the rush, many of the people we spoke to complained about the process, calling it disorganized and insisting there was a lack of communication about what documents are needed.
This is going to frustrate a lot of people because you come here ready to make sure you're straight, then they tell you have to go back. They need to make an announcement what people need to do.
The process is very old. It needs to be updated. And what's going to happen now for persons like myself that are trying to beat the rush, there's a chance that I'm not going to come back, which means that I'm not going to vote.
On the international front, India's excess deaths during the COVID-19 pandemic could be as high as 4.9 million. A new study shows, providing further evidence that millions more may have died from the coronavirus than the official tally. More in this report from Reuters TV.
A study by a Washington think tank is providing the latest evidence that India's coronavirus death toll could be millions higher than the official government tally. The NGO, called the Center for Global Development, says India has experienced 4.9 million excess deaths since the start of the pandemic through June this year. That means 4.9 million more people have died than would normally occur during that time period from natural causes, accidents, and other regular non-COVID related issues. For reference, India's official COVID tally is 414,000 dead, the third highest in the world, behind Brazil at 542,000 and the United States with 608,000. Not all of the excess deaths would be COVID, but some experts believe that counting excess deaths is the most accurate way to measure the pandemic's devastation. Health experts say undercounting in India would be largely due to scarce resources in rural areas, which are home to 2/3 of the country's population of nearly 1.4 billion people, and also that many deaths at home aren't tested. India's government has previously dismissed reports that the death toll could be much higher, and most cities in India have lifted their strict lockdowns. There are concerns by authorities, though, that mass gatherings such as religious festivals are still acting as super spreader events.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.